Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, my name's Ash 11. I'm the Director of Inclusion at the Nottingham Emmanuel School. I'm really nervous. This is the first time I'm doing anything like this in front of so many amazing professionals. So, what I need from you guys is lots of smiling. It's like Ofsted, isn't it? When people see there with that neutral face, you're wondering, are you doing something wrong? So I need lots of positive energy to keep me going. Thank you very much. Okay, what we're going to be looking at is actually developing expertise in our students through what's called optimal learning. And I'm going to tell you a little story. Chapter 1. So, I'm going to tell you a story about a colleague of mine called David. David's been teaching for 10 years now, and he's classified as an outstanding teacher. Ofsted have seen him rating very highly, the school rating very highly. But he doesn't feel very happy in himself. He's under a lot of pressure at the moment. As always, Ofsted itself. Different messages being sent out to David and the rest of the teaching staff. Ofsted keep changing their mind about what they want. And also the exam boards. Those secondary colleagues out there, those primary colleagues out there. What's happened is this: the exam boards have, in their little world, imagined that everyone's got smarter. So, literally, A-level at the moment, are literally learning about university level stuff. GCSE are learning A-level material. Year 5 students are learning Year 10 material. That's literally what's going on at the moment. But not has it just got harder. There's more to cover. And we're under pressure to deliver all of that information in a short space of time. And that's a huge worry. Because what was happening before, in truth, wasn't working anyway. You have a lot of students who are under a lot of pressure anyway in the old system. But what we're doing is we're making it harder for these kids. And David was feeling this pressure. And then he's got in-lesson pressure. He's got those children, it doesn't matter how much he differentiates. It doesn't matter how many worksheets he gives them. They just do not get it. You then have his students who think they get it. And it looks like they get it. And they're writing down lots of information. When the teacher's actually checking it, when David checks this information, it's completely wrong. And then we have those children who seem like they get it. They do get it. At the end of the lesson, they show great progress. They get all the answers right. But the next lesson, they've completely forgotten everything again. Crazy. And then you've got the pressure of progress. The pressure that you've got to show that these children are actually making progress in one lesson. That they're hitting their target grade in the lesson. And if not, you're a bad teacher. If not, you're failing the kids. But as we know, progress is never a straight line. There are concepts which we forget. There are concepts which we're not aware about. There's concepts which are so difficult, but we need that time to think about it. And then it comes to us. So progress is never a straight line. But everyone thinks it does. Go that way. And then you've got the students who are low in confidence, who hide away in our classrooms. We try and get them out of their shell, but they don't want to be. They don't feel confident in themselves. And sometimes that might lead to behaviour difficulties. And it's not because David's a bad teacher that he has some behaviour difficulties. It's just the nature of 30 children in the classroom with their own emotional baggage. But it's still something he has to face every day like everybody else in this room. And then, exam stress. Children who've done so well throughout the year, doing their exams and having meltdowns. Children missing days of school because of it. Children who should be getting their target grades, A grades, A stars, or whatever happens at Key Stage 2. I'm secondary, by the way. But not hitting it. And when we don't hit it, they're in tears. But we've done so well all throughout the year. And then the marking and feedback. All the latest research showing how amazing feedback is, which it is. But schools putting pressure on teachers to give this feedback. And not just that, with the amount of work we've got to cover in a short space of time, that pile just stacks up and stacks up. And David's got a family, David's got 2 kids, and he said to me that he doesn't spend any time with them. He doesn't. And he's upset about that. Is it worth him being an outstanding teacher to give up his family? That's how he feels at the moment. Or how he felt, shall I say. So I'm going to take you on a journey. David and I spent a lot of time working together about how do we ensure learning is going on in the classroom. What is learning? So, we've done a lot of reading into cognitive science. That's inside of education and outside of education. This young gentleman is called Robert Bjork, and he's like the guru of cognitive science. That's B-J-O-R-K. And we've learnt a lot from him. But we haven't just learnt it, we've actually applied it in the classroom. We've tested things out. The second thing, not sure if anyone's come across Michaela's School. Some people say it's an exams factory. Myself and a colleague and Dave went down and we saw Michaela's School in action. And every child there, no matter what their ability, was confident. Because knowledge is power. These children are confident in their own abilities. They are confident enough to stand up in a room of 300 people and make announcements at lunchtime. They are confident in themselves. And that, for me, is fantastic. Seeing children with special needs especially standing up in a huge group, making announcements in front of other people. Children who normally might be a little bit more recluse. We've also spent time analysing TED. I'm hoping, well, people come across TED Talks. And there's actually a science behind TED Talks. There's a formula they follow. 60% of our time in the classroom is teacher talk. But I've never been trained in teacher talk. That wasn't part of my teacher training programme. How do I know if I'm doing a good job? It's so difficult to get our ideas and put into a child's head. But that's what we're expected to do. But I received no training. So, myself and David and I spent a lot of time literally analysing how to get information and put it into someone else's head. It's not that complicated actually, when you get to the crux of it. And the final thing is we've looked at things outside of education. So we've spent time looking at what's been working in other industries. So we've looked at the nurses model of learning, where they look at people as novices, competent people, and you work your way up to becoming an expert. And we've tried to apply that in our own practice as well. So I'm going to introduce you to a concept we've come up with called optimal learning. And optimal learning is three things. The first one is actually the process of acquiring and retaining knowledge. Individual bricks of information and knowledge. That's step one, you could say. Step two is then developing understanding of this knowledge. Sometimes we're in danger of trying to go too quickly. So we're expecting children to know too much in a short space of time. So acquiring and retaining knowledge is the foundations. Developing understanding is then linking our ideas together. And the final skill is then developing transference skills. How do we take this information, this understanding, and apply it to new situations which we've never faced before? So from an exam perspective, it's a question which the students have never come across before, and then feeling confident enough to pull out that information and answer it. From a problem-solving situation, it's all about the child seeing a problem and understanding how to solve it. Key skills, and that's what we feel make up learning, and we've applied that to PE, to sports, to art, to computer science, to English. It's the same formula. So, going back to David. David was frustrated because in lessons he was getting students saying, I definitely get it, sir, look how much I wrote. But the quality of what they wrote was nonsense. I'm not sure if many of you have had that situation before. I've had it in my practice as well. And it's frustrating because you think they get it, but look confident when they're writing. So you sort of sometimes leave those children alone when you're walking around that classroom. But when you go back to it, completely got the wrong idea. And then we've got those children who just do not get it. And it's those children who normally will be the ones who cause our more challenging behaviour. The ones who switch off a lot quicker. The ones who start throwing rubbers across the classroom or getting into arm wrestles behind the teacher's back. Not saying that happens in my lessons, but that's what happens because they just do not get it. They were not born that way. Behaviour is a form of communication. So what we found out was this, that every child, or even every adult, when we're doing something new, we start off as a novice. We don't know much about it. We might have some previous experiences, but not much. And what we're trying to do is, to become an expert, it takes years and years and years of practice. But that's our dream goal, to make our children experts in the long run. So, here comes the sciencey part. What we found out. The first problem, because children do not understand information and why they get themselves confused, is that we're under pressure to deliver a lot of information in a short space of time. So when we give them facts, so fact 1, fact 2, fact 3, fact 4, fact 5 will cause a cognitive overload. That's especially if the children do not have much previous experience. If the children do not have much previous experience with what you're talking about, we're in danger of giving them a cognitive overload. That is when you see them daydreaming. That is then when they're switching off. And David had that in his classroom. He was pitching things too quickly to go up that Bloom's taxonomy triangle as quick as possible so that some children can hit their levels. And that cognitive overload happens a lot. And there's simple solutions to that. So David, what he did is he actually, per lesson, identified 3 to 5, because that's what's called, we can say, our maximum load, key aspects of information to teach for children at any one time. 5 facts maximum to teach for children in a lesson. But not just that. When he wanted to deliver those key facts, he ensured that he had their optimum attention. He might give them a little bit of a rest break before he delivered that optimum fact. The point being is that you remember the context of how you're taught. If they're daydreaming and they're missing that key fact, it'll be harder for them to pull it out. If they're thinking about what they're having for dinner, it'll be harder for them to pull it out. So you've got to ensure that you've got their attention just before you're going to deliver one of your key facts. And that goes with effective pace. We hear about pace all the time. Ensure that there's good pace in the lesson. That doesn't mean it's a race. Effective pace means when you're losing their attention, change it really quickly. It could be a tone of voice. It could be a change in activity. It could be just getting them to stand up and ask questions of them when they're standing up. But it's slight change, and that is effective pace. It's not how many activities you can fit into a lesson. It isn't. Our aim is to ensure that our key facts have a chance to stay in the child's long-term memory. And the long-term memory is the key part of all of this. That's what we want, the information we're teaching to stick with the child. Everyone has a limited working memory. Everyone, whether you're dyslexic, like myself, or whether you are a gifted and talented child. Everyone's got a limited working memory. Everyone's got an unlimited long-term memory. And that's what we need to be targeting. How do we strengthen the long-term memory of our children? Another aspect which was frustrating David, which was linked to understanding knowledge and remembering knowledge, was he was hearing all the time that teacher talk is bad. We went through that phrase, I'm not sure if you people remember that, where we had to become facilitators of learning. But actually, what we found out was we are the experts in our area. We know best how to give that information to a student. And through these ideas, through the way we deliver it, we can help our children manufacture and link their previous experience to this new information. Through storytelling, it's very, very powerful. That's one of the key aspects which they do at TED. That's what I'm doing to you right now, by telling a story about David. And that actually has a huge impact on teaching. So David used to tell stories about his own experiences, he used to make up stories and how concepts fit together, but also using analogies as well. Instead of going straight for the facts, give them something they can relate to first. And what that does is this. We are using our expert knowledge in our long-term memory and giving a chance for our students, our children, to start making some slight connections by dumbing it down. Sometimes we hear that's bad. We're putting it in a way they understand so that they can make connections, so that then they can store things in their working memory because they're not getting confused, and so that it can transfer to their long-term memory over time. If we pitch it too high, or we're making too many assumptions, and I was in a lesson not too long ago, it was a religious studies lesson, and the teacher was great. It's probably one of my favourite teachers in the school to watch. It's just so charismatic. And it was all about virtues. And what he did is he used the example of Nazi Germany in his lesson. And the whole lesson was structured around that. At the end of the lesson, 5 kids put their hands up. And the teacher said, yes, to one of the children. And the child said, what's a Nazi? This is at the end of the lesson. And then all the other hands went down, because obviously they had the same question. He made an assumption that they knew that information. So all that lesson, the children were trying in their brains, working out what is a Nazi. So they couldn't take in what the key points were. Also, sorry, one final thing, and that's visuals. You'll notice that throughout my slides, I do not have much writing on it. There's many lessons I'll go into where you have lots and lots of writing. Instructions are great to have visual for children to follow. But when you're trying to actually disseminate information, too many facts on the slide can get very confusing. You guys, when you've been to teacher talks before, or CPD, it's off-putting as well. Seeing lots and lots of text. So it's a very powerful tool using visuals. Another thing when it comes to retaining knowledge was this. In David's lesson, he was observed. And at the end of the lesson, every single child, I kid you not, got 5 out of 5 on the test. Great progress, he was told. Fantastic stuff. The next, I think it was 2 lessons time though, most of the children forgot all 5 points from the first lesson. They only remember 2 or 3 things. If that observer was still there, he would have seen that progress didn't translate through because the children forgot. And this is why. When we teach a topic, a concept, if you teach it well, even through all the methods I've just suggested, the children will remember 100% of it. But by the end of the day, look how much it drops. Look how much it drops after a month. That's scary. And that's not just for a child, this is for an adult as well. By the end of this talk, everyone in this room will go through the same process if you do not revisit it. Eventually you'll forget most of it. That's happening to our children. So what we found out is that there's what's called the new theory of disuse, where we've got something called storage strength, which is literally how much we're going to remember in a long-term memory. And retrieval strength is how quick we can bring it up, that information. What we want to be is here. That's what we call our optimal state. Here's the process. From what you're going to remember in one lesson, it's going to have very weak retrieval strength and very weak storage strength. Quick to forget, it's not going to be in the long-term memory. If you've done a few lessons in a row, blocked learning, so you're teaching 3 lessons about fractions, the children will start becoming confident in their ability. They'll start to remember things very, very quickly. But what will happen is, it will not stick in their long-term memory. So you might do 5 lessons of fractions. 2 months later, that'll be forgotten, or most of those things. Yeah, again, a scary thought. When I was little, many years ago, I was made at school to learn about King Henry VIII and his wives. And there was all these little rhymes and songs and poems which we had to do. And I probably remember about 4 of them now. But if I think really hard, I could probably actually pull out all 8, 7, 6. 6. But I have to think hard to do that. It can be done. And when it is done, it'll be easy to remember the next time. But that's where our storage strength is very good, but our retrieval strength is very slow. It takes a lot of time. So that's when you'll see children spend a lot of time, especially if you're revisiting something you've done so well, trying to pull out information. It's not that they've got slow processing speed, it's just where the memories are kept. So, what we found out was this. Actually, if you revisit work, material, topics, spaced out, just when a child is forgetting the information you taught them, it's going to take them longer to forget it the next time. You then do it again, just when forgetting that information. They forget the information, it takes them longer to forget the information the next time, and it spreads out, and it spreads out, and it spreads out. It's a very effective tool. It's called spaced learning. Another thing we found out was called the testing effect. S stands for study, T stands for test. 3 cohorts of children. These were the results. The children who just spent all their time studying without being tested or self-testing themselves scored very highly when it came to a test, a whole class test 5 minutes later. The group of children who spent 3 sessions studying and 1 session self-testing, when they were tested 5 minutes later after the delay, they scored second best. And the children who were only taught once a topic or a concept and then self-tested themselves over and over again scored the lowest after a 5-minute delay. But a week later, fortunes reversed. The children who actually tested themselves because there's a challenge there to pull out that information scored better. Because testing, if it's low stake, you can do it as quizzes. You can do it as any fun way you want. Flashcards we use. Actually creates a challenge, a difficulty, which then, going back to, this enables the children to pull out those facts because it's creating a challenge for them. Reading information over and over again doesn't actually help embed learning. Doesn't help embed facts. Doesn't matter how many times you read something, it doesn't stick. But adding a challenge to it, make it slightly difficult, actually just gaps in words, multiple choice, so many different ways you can do that. So let's see what David did in the classroom. So David did lots of little activities. Homework was all about learning key facts using flashcards. There's a schedule which the children followed, which was all about the spaced learning. So just when they're going to forget, but they had to test themselves. They had to create mind maps from scratch, from their own memory, and then build upon it any gaps they had. And then build upon it again, and build upon it again. Now this might seem quite rote style, but what we're actually doing is we're creating a nice base to work with so that we can actually encourage creativity later on. So pop quizzes were done, and also children have a knowledge sheet with all the keywords which are related to the topic. Something which is structured so it's easy to follow for these children. This is a computer science one with lots of technical stuff on there. And children weren't given levels. Children, each one of these is a topic. And they can gauge where they stand every time they do a pop quiz so that they can actually manage very difficult strengths and weaknesses. And that's where the monitoring comes into play. It's a lot more accurate than giving a blanket level for all these topics. It's not that we're working at a 7C or in secondary school or B grade or an A grade, it's that they're very strong in this area, but not so strong there, so they know what to work on. So I've looked at and explained about how to put knowledge in children's heads and how they can retain it best through those different methods: spaced learning, self-testing, challenge, making it fun, engaging. But now it's about connecting those ideas. It's all very well handling this knowledge, but how do they connect with each other? And this is what we found out. As novices, which our children are, that's how the ideas are connected at the moment. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. You've got a bit of maths there, different concepts of maths. It's not shaped up. Whilst an expert, it's all structured perfectly. So, the example's chess. Grandmasters in chess, who've been playing chess for years and years and years, were put in a room with a novice. They both had the same time to look at a chessboard with pieces on it in random places. Then they decided to wipe off all the pieces, and they had to put back those pieces to use memory. The masters put it exactly where it needed to be. The novices, it was all over the shop, because the experts could see patterns between concepts. They could see patterns through experience more than anything else. It is powerful, but when they were given a slightly differently shaped board, there's a slight difference to it. They could not remember, even the masters, where those pieces were. And we'll come back to that later though. But the point is this. What we want to do is help our students create links between different concepts so that they become more confident when they're having to explain and build on their answers. Sometimes we go too quickly, where we teach them a concept and then expect them to write loads about that concept. If they don't have that understanding, or if they don't have that knowledge inside, it's a very difficult skill to do. I can do that. Think about it. Would you be able to write extended paragraphs about what I'm going through in a very quick time today? It's a hard ask, especially for a child. So the simple solutions which David's put into his classroom. And the first is actually helping children remember what topic is what and what content goes in what. It may sound quite robotic, but it actually helps later on. So it's a cover test, so you cover a part of the knowledge sheet. So at the top you've got the different topics. So you've got memory, network, secondary storage devices, legislation. Think how that can work in the topics you teach. And in there you've got subtopics. And it's literally, from memory, can you remember what goes where? Then you do it as a visual diagram. And what that encourages children to do is keep those ideas structured. And then reveal and see how you've done. Then, take keywords, trigger words, and can you expand on it? tell me everything you know about decode. So source instructions, that's great. How does it do that? It's encouraging them to slowly start scaffolding their ideas and putting it down by using what's called cues. You do it visually, you have a picture, expand on this picture. But they can do that because they've got the knowledge. The knowledge is there. They can pull it out quickly. But now it's about how can we build upon it. Other activities, it's the other way around. Here's a long piece of work I've done for you kids. How can you sum it up in 140 characters? It's a hard skill to do that. What's the most important points from here? Another activity David's done is comparing and contrasting. It could be two different topics. It could be one topic, two different ideas. But it's a powerful tool, comparing and contrasting. I'm sure many people in this room do that already, but it's great for developing understanding. Give a child a piece of work. Can you spot the mistake? I made 7 mistakes in here. Can you spot it, correct it, explain why there's mistakes? It helps develop that understanding. And a good fun one, analogies. Here's a concept I've given you. It's a complete analogy. Can you turn that into a subject-specific response? So what I mean by that is what David did was he explained how a computer works by giving the analogy of Argos. So you've got the storeroom, you've got the warehouse, how all the pieces fit together. And you give that a sheet of paper with a story on it. And the children have to actually then use their knowledge, their understanding, and look at the similarities to what they've actually been learning, and can we transfer that over. And yet again, that increases the level of understanding. Analogies are a very powerful way to get children to not only understand things, but to develop that understanding as well. So that is developing understanding, all of these little tricks, so to speak. Things which we do every day, but it's through a structured approach. And then the final thing, which is probably the biggest concern for most people, and that's developing the transference skills. What happens if we take a brick out from that wall? Is the wall going to crumble? Are children going to cry because they don't know what to do? Are we going to sit there for hours and hours and hours puzzled by a word which is thrown them? And let's face it, we see that many times. They know what the answer is. It's just because it's been asked in a different way that they're struggling. It's because it's got a scenario attached to it. That's about Joe's fish shop instead of Joe's fish, fish tank shop. I don't know. But the point is, just because it's got different concrete examples in there, it throws our children big time. So, what we've got on the board is a scheme of work. All good? It's okay. So lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. The topic is memory. The subtopics are the different things about computer memory, all taught one after the other. They're going to do an end-of-unit test, and this child got an A grade. Really good. That child went home, I'm sure, celebrated with champagne or whatever, but the point is, they got well happy about that, apart from with their primary school. The problem is, when they came up to their exam, a year later, for that same topic, they scored a lot lower than what was predicted, than what was assessed. And David started querying his own teaching, but also data tracking as well. He plotted it across A, because they're doing so well. There's an experiment done in America, where they had a baseball team split into 2. One cohort did traditional practice where they pitched 45 different pitches. 15 of a fast, 15 of a curveball, and 15 of a changeup, whatever that is. 15 in a row. 15 fast, 15 curve, 15 changeup. Condition B was mixed. So it could be any of those 3 in random orders. Here's what happens. Those same players, when we've gotten to a match situation, you can guess which one performed better than the others. Obviously it's condition B, because in a game you don't know what you're going to face. It could be any of those balls. Well, think about how sometimes we teach. Sometimes we teach by a block method, and your brain is actually ready for that. If I'm teaching 5 lessons about fractions in a row, and most of the questions in this end of unit test is going to be about fractions, your brain's going to be ready for that. Even if you ask it in a slightly different way, your brain's going to be ready. It's called a lack of cognitive dissonance. By mixing it up, you're challenging your brain. What topic is this from? Oh, can I remember that far back? Okay, so it's on this topic. Pull it out. And it gives them an experience, a practice of that. And that's called transference. That's one part of transference, and it's called interleaving practice. So this is what David did, and it's quite extreme. No one has to go this far. But what David did was, he taught 3 different topics at once. In lesson 1, he talked about memory, taught memory. Lesson 2, he taught about the laws of computers. Lesson 3, he talked about the internet. Then he goes back to lesson 1 again, about memory. The same topic, the same concept, but he builds upon it. What that encourages is that spaced approach. It gives them a chance to forget that information and hit it again. But not just that, it encourages transference because the children have to think hard about what topic it is today. And at first they don't like it, they did not like it, the kids, they got confused. But over time, what happened is they gradually got used to it. And what happens? They started pulling out the right information at the right time. Their brains were more alert. So when it came to any type of challenge, and it could be a test, it could be, here's a computer, I've broken it, you put it back together, they'll be able to apply the right skills at the right time. So it's not just about exams, it's about problems we face every day in our lives. It's encouraging them to problem solve. That's what this is about. The next thing we found out about transference was called context-dependent learning, or the variation effect. And there was a study done, and this study was people were tested. They were put into 2 groups, as they always are. They had to learn a huge list of words. We'll say 50 people had to learn all these words on dry land. The other half had to learn, they're all scuba divers by the way, the same words underwater. So they didn't have to hold their breath, they had an oxygen tank. And that's how we learned that information. Now when it came to testing, when it came to the testing, for those people who learnt on water but did a test on land, they split the group up again in half. So those people, half the people who study it on water then did a test on land. I'll say that again. Half the people who study on water had to do the test on dry land. Half of the people who studied on land had to do the test underwater. The people, another half, who studied underwater did a test on water, and the same with land. Those who did the test on land, half of them did it on land as well. Different context, same context. Look at the results for what happens if you add a change. It's not very high in terms of the amount of words they remember, compared to if they're in the same context. Now think about how we work in our schools. I'm not sure what it's like for primary schools, but at GCSE, the kids have to sit in an exam hall. Massive room. They're not used to it. So think about how they're going to perform. This could be a lot lower because it's a new environment they're being put in. I'm guessing, is it like that for primary school as well? Or do we get to sit in the same seats, in the same...
Stay in the classroom.
So that's an advantage.
Yeah.
That is an advantage, but for secondary, it's a challenge because they've got to sit in these huge monstrous halls. I'm sure you remember from your time. It's cold, the environment. Are you allowed in the rooms during SATs?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's another advantage because here's how it works. You perform better if the area around you, the surroundings, the environment is familiar to you than if it's not. The problem is we can't control that, especially in secondary school. But what we can control is deliberately mixing up the environment. Deliberately getting them used to that. Doing some work outside, getting into, literally, as David did, not using seating plans. Mixing up constantly, so they're not used to the same seat. What David used to do to start off with, which was easy, whatever seat he's sitting to learn, when it comes to any type of assessment, or when it comes to any type of challenge, it's not all about assessments, it's any type of problem solving. Obviously sit in a different part of the room. And that's encouraging the variation effect, it's adding the difficulty. Also, it's changing the type of questions. Even if the questions are going to be written out questions and answers in an exam, actually, throw in some multiple choice, throw in fill in the gap, throw in draw a picture, doesn't matter, but mix it up. Change the conditions, turn it into a challenge for them. 10 seconds, go. You've got 10 seconds, stand up, explain to me what we've just done right now. How's that related to that? 10 seconds, perfect. But that's adding what we call a variation. And a final thing that David was frustrated in, and that's these students who are so bright, who've done so well, they sit in here, they're given a problem and they have a meltdown. They're in tears about it. And unfortunately I saw that the other day with a year 11 exam. This poor kid, who was an A-star kid, sat there in tears. at the end, remember there's a bit of feedback, we actually knew what the answer was when the question was asked in a different way to them. I'm not going to read this out to you, and don't bother reading it, but I'll explain. There was another study done, in my studies, whereby they gave a group of people 2 scenarios. The first scenario was all about a mighty dictator who lived in a castle. And there were lots of different roads going to this castle, but they were very thin, and you can only fit 5 people in a row on a road, so they had to walk single file at any one time, because there were landmines as well, so pressure. And the idea was, how do you get and infiltrate that castle? And the idea was that you meant to spread out your forces and drip feed them into the castle and hit it all at once by using all the roads. Kind of understand that concept? Mm-hmm. But then given another scenario, which is you're a doctor, there's a tumour killing your patient, you've got a laser. If you fire that laser at full strength, it'll kill the tumour, but it'll kill anything else in its way as well. If you have it at low intensity, it won't kill the tumour, but it won't damage anything. You can use as many lasers as you want. So the solution is going to be, you have lots of lasers firing weak from different angles to get rid of the tumour. So all at once. Similar to the dictator scenario. Here are what the results were. Those people who just had a go at solving the radiation task without that one, only 10% managed to do it. Those people who on their own remembered the military scenario managed to solve the radiation, only 30% of people did it. Those people who remembered the military scenario but were given hints to solve the radiation, look how many people managed to solve it? 75% with a hint. But the fact is, that's reality. That is reality. We're not provided with hints. We're not. That's the sad part about it. I wish that we could be in situations where we could actually sit there and say to the students, remember when we did this? Well, here's a picture. We can't do that. So, solutions which help that, believe it or not, to solve this problem, is actually saying the question, the story, or tell the situation in 2 different ways. To teach the same thing, but in 2 different ways quickly. It might be over a period of time. You don't have to spend hours doing it, but if you explain a concept in 2 different ways, it actually helps children think more abstractly rather than concretely. So when we look at exam questions, or any type of problem a child needs to face, or human an adult needs to face, we look at what the concrete problem is. Joe's fish shop, Sally's supermarket. What we've got to do is actually look what's beyond that problem. Think more abstractly, and actually telling stories in 2 different ways about the same concept does that. Another thing what David did was actually, on a fun quiz test paper, gave the same problem, the same question, but in 2 different ways. And it was remarkable the amount of children who managed to answer the first one perfectly and the second one completely wrong, even though it was looking for the same answer. But a bit of practice about that, and then looking at what makes the question, so a bit of dissecting, actually helps, because that's a compare and contrast. So similarities is very, very powerful. So, to help transfer our schema, to going back to, wish I could go do this. I am seeing what I'm doing right now. Here we go. There. Our schema, this is the schema. When it's in abstract form, it's more flexible. But if we've only been taught concrete questions or activities in concrete ways, here's how you learn fractions. You've got bricks. That's how you solve it in your own mind. If you can picture doing that, that's how you solve it. That's being taught a concrete way. If we're taught different ways and trained in different ways, it makes us more flexible. It actually helps children become more flexible to problems. So that's the first thing. Let's go right back. I wish I could work on it. Where is it? To help transfer, telling a story which is similar helps. Going over the same information again, maybe another time, helps if we do it which is in a similar way. It helps create that understanding, but transferability as well. And using diagrams really helps that method as well. Having a diagram, having a similar diagram, how are they similar? Can you transfer that onto that? Can you draw a diagram? Here's some text, kids. Draw a diagram of how that plays out. Here's this picture. Draw a diagram of how that plays out. So actually getting them to do the diagrams, taking a problem which is text-based and turning it into a diagram. Even if it's not needed, it's great for the thought process. So, the long-term aim is this, ladies and gentlemen. By yes, maybe coming across a bit old school, by driving facts home, what that's going to do is it's going to free up our working memory to solve the more complex problems and become more creative. I'll explain. I was in primary school about a month ago helping out with computer science, and a company was brought in, and it was so much fun. They had to build their own computer of the future. One teacher, so one class hadn't actually had a computer lesson yet, or any. So their drawings were great, but they weren't very realistic. Now, does it have to be realistic? Who knows? But they weren't that realistic. The children who have had computer-based lessons, who are using this method for their teaching, the children not only can create really good drawings, but they can actually explain it with great detail as well. And actually, one of the ideas, they came up with a solution to a problem which a company actually, I swear on my life, weren't aware of before. I kid you not. And that's a child, which sometimes does happen, seeing something in a different way. But that came from them, straight away, the kids having that knowledge and pulling it out. Think about it, when we're driving, we're doing things without even thinking. That's in our subconscious. If we can encourage our children to do the boring, menial stuff in the subconscious, knowing the area of a shape up by heart, instead of thinking for hours and hours, what is the area of a shape? When in fact the problem is deeper than that. Helps the learning. We want to be teaching our children superficial stuff, facts, knowledge, so that when it comes with the more deeper aspects of learning, more deeper challenges, they're not going to have an overload. They can actually start adding proper creativity to it, rather than rushing up the Bloom's taxonomy triangle, which I've been guilty of before, Dave's been guilty of before. When we're observed, we've got to ensure that we're reaching the top end, the evaluate, the apply. And sometimes we don't need to apply until we're ready to apply. So, I want to have a think about what you might want to take away from what I've spoken about. There's been a lot of information I've thrown at you in a short space of time. Remember, the way we see learning, and we're now putting it across the school, is how do we get children to acquire knowledge? How do we get them to remember that knowledge? How do we help them develop ideas and connect this knowledge? And then how do we help them problem solve with it? And what that's done in my own department with David is helped actually create not just more engaged learners, because what's happening is this. Our children who started off being low confidence are weakest kids because they know what they're talking about when I'm talking, because it's in the brain. They're actually joining in conversations. They're not sitting there like a lost little sheep. They feel confident because they're in control of their own learning. They know they haven't done very well on something, or they're not getting it. They know how to get better. Part of it is the practicing. 9 times out of 10, even with one of my weakest students, it has been a method because they haven't practiced enough, and they know that. A nice success story. There's a child who's been excluded a few times at our school. Very low level, you could say, across the board. Through the method which David's put in place, I kid you not, got an A star. And this is a child who's very low literacy as well, because they were able to apply their confidence. Their behaviour in the lessons is superb because they're engaged. They're engaged not because it's personalised to them. They're not engaged because it's about a topic they're going to enjoy. Some of the stuff which David's teaching is dry. How computers work, processors, memory in a computer. You can't make that exciting no matter what you do, but you can help them understand it. You can help them actually build confidence that way so they can contribute, so that they actually can build upon their ideas and feel success. And this method, ladies and gentlemen, through storytelling, using analogies, through spacing the learning so you allow them to forget, hit them hard, through testing, but testing not as a scary thing, it's low risk, it's challenge. You can do it so far. We did Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You can do it as any quiz show you want, but just getting that challenge, that thought process. Schema building, helping them develop ideas, creating mind maps, helping them organise their crazy, wild thoughts. Interleaving, doing quizzes at the start of the lesson about stuff you did 2 weeks ago, mixing up the questions. It doesn't have to be about what you're just covering today. It could be about random stuff. It could be even cross-topic. If you're teaching a science lesson, could you throw in some English questions in there? Get their brains alert, get their brains ready, get them on edge. It really does help. And mixing up things. Don't just do things in the same way. It's quite easy for us to do that, because we're in our comfort zone. Take some risks. Add some pressure. It does make a difference. So what next in terms of our research? Because this is all stuff we've researched. And what we're looking at is managing different types of attention. There's lots of different theories out there on how to actually hold a child's attention best. And we found that fascinating. Also, different types of processing loads. We've got different types of processing which goes on in kids' brain. We want to know more about that. We want to know about effective practicing as well. There's actually really good theories out there on how practice should be. How to learn a new concept. That could be sports, it could be anything. And the final thing, we're going to be working with some speakers from TED who are going to be helping us deliver actual in-lesson content. How do we pitch our ideas to kids? How do we help them? And some of the stuff I've explained today does that. But even we don't feel we're ready for that. We're nowhere near ready for that yet, to say it's a success. There's no end result at the moment, folks. I can't say this has done this, it's done this. What I can say is, in the lessons which I've seen, confidence is very high amongst kids, and the data and the assessing is very, very high across the board. Whether it's going to be sustained, whether that's what's going to happen in practice, I can't answer that. But what I can say is that you can feel the confidence oozing with the children. It does make a difference. Two more very quick things, and that is this. I'm not sure if you've come across ABC questioning before. It's a really simple technique, and that is, if you ask a child a question, get one to stand up, start off with it, create that kinesthetic energy. You give them an option. So after they answer that question, you pick on another child. Do you agree with that? Their response. If so, why? Build upon it. Another child you might say, do you want to build upon it or challenge what we just said? So they can build upon that answer. You might want to ask another child, do you want to challenge what we just said? Why do they challenge it? And that's a very simple method, but what that helps is create that dialogue and confidence, especially getting standing up, encouraging them to project their voice.